JT Miller is injured at Rangers practice. We tell you the latest and we discuss what could happen if he's forced to miss time.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1390 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, and we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we got some breaking news as of an hour, maybe 2 hours ago on Monday here with JT Miller going down with an apparent injury at New York Rangers practice. It was a non-contact injury, and those can always be a little bit scary. As far as what happened on the play, there is a video of it going around on social media. Vince Mercogliano was one of several Ranger reporters who were at the rink watching the practice, and he just so happened to be taking a video of the Rangers while they were doing their power play work. And the Rangers are moving the puck around a little bit. You've got Panarin on the left side. Panarin tries to make a pass back to the blue line to Adam Fox. The pass is deflected. It's tipped by one of the penalty killers. JT Miller sees it. He goes after it. He basically lays out to, be able to chip the puck back to Adam Fox, keep the play alive for the power play unit, of which he was on during this session here. And unfortunately, he went down on this play, never got back up. I mean, he did eventually, but he was doubled over on his knees. They eventually saw what was happening. They whistled the play dead. JT was able to, pick himself up, but he was doubled over, clearly in some pain, clearly in some discomfort, and he went straight to the locker room after this happened and did not come back to practice. Now, for what it was worth, it sounds like practice was pretty close to being over anyway. They were working on the power play and the penalty kill at the very end here, but obviously a very unfortunate situation and certainly scary if you're a Ranger fan. This has not been a banner 24 hours as far as New York sports fans are concerned. And this is obviously a scary moment for all of us New York Ranger fans. And apparently he was not available, JT Miller, that is, after this practice to talk to the media. It sounds like, when the beat writers, the press members, when they were in the Ranger locker room, it sounds like JT Miller was still with the trainers getting looked at. And apparently Mike Sullivan provided an update, even though he was not at practice today. Right now, Sullivan is with the Rangers, the Ranger players that are going to be participating in the preseason game against the Islanders tonight. And David Quinn was left to pretty much run the practice here. And even with that being the case, though, like I did see tweets. Peter Ball was one of them. There was maybe one other that mentioned that Mike Sullivan gave an update on JT Miller, and the update is basically that there is no update, that the trainers are looking at him, and they'll let us know when they have more information. But obviously a scary situation right now. I checked one more time right before we hit record here. This could be different by the time this episode publishes or by the time you happen to be watching it or listening to it. But as of right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern as it pertains to JT Miller. So that's obviously unfortunate. As far as other Ranger news, everything that's going on here today, again, the team is basically divided in two right now. There was most of the NHL regulars who were practicing today, including obviously JT Miller, who was injured. And then we have a little bit later tonight, obviously the Rangers are going to be playing the Islanders. And we had some of the Rangers who are not really necessarily the biggest names. A lot of the guys that are going to make this team, they're over at Long Island. They're going to be playing the Islanders later tonight. There was a list of the players who will be participating at the preseason game a little bit later tonight. You've got forwards Brett Berard, Brisson, Brodzinski, Carrick, Cooley, Laba, Othman, Parson, Perreault, Radish, Rempe, and Robrick. The defensemen tonight that are going to be playing are Fitzgerald, Mackey, Morrow, Robertson, Schneider, and Vakanainen. And then the two goalies are Igor Shesterkin and Dylan Garand. And, that is kind of, it's certainly not the look that the Rangers are going to give during opening night, when the regular season starts. But I do find this interesting because it sounds like there's going to be several New York Islander regulars who are going to be playing in this game, including Horvat, Barzal, Druin, Palmieri, and Schaefer. So with that being the case, this is a good test for a lot of these young New York Ranger players. And it's also interesting to me because we've been really impressed with guys like Perot and guys like Laba and guys like Brett Berard. And it's like, well, now, they're going out there up against not fellow prospects, not guys that are going to be playing in the AHL. They're going to be going up against, it sounds like, a lot of the New York Islander regulars. So it is interesting in that regard. And I think a strong showing there should certainly strengthen the case of any of these players that plays well against the Islanders and really makes us turn our heads again. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, as far as the JT Miller injury is concerned, I mean, it's awful. It's rough. And the reason I bring up the lineup and all those players that are going to be competing against the Islanders tonight is because if JT Miller was to miss some time, going forward, and obviously fingers crossed that does not happen, but if he is to miss a certain amount of time, then it could open the door a little bit for one of these young New York Ranger players to make the roster. Like if JT Miller, and again, fingers crossed that this is not the case, but if JT Miller is not out there on opening night against the Penguins, then I think you're certainly looking at a situation where Mika Zibanejad will move back to center, and you'll have Trocheck and Mika in either order. They'll be centering the top two lines for the New York Rangers. But then that obviously leaves a little bit of an opening, or kind of a big opening, at right wing or just wing in general, depending on how you want to look at it. But if that's the case, I mean, you could see somebody like Gabe Perreault make this team. I mean, he could make this team even if JT Miller is healthy and is ready to go. But I think that really cracks the door. And if you lose somebody the caliber of JT Miller, hopefully for not very long, but if he's not out there on opening night, then I think you got to swing for the fences as far as like who takes his spot in the lineup. It should not be a career journeyman from the AHL. It should be somebody that has some upside, somebody that's got some offensive punch, and somebody that you kind of just throw out there and, you give them their chance. And to me, that sounds like Gabe Perreault more than anybody else. You can maybe throw Brett Berard out there as well. But for me, if you got to miss JT Miller for any amount of time, then you go for the guy with the big time upside. You go for the guy that's a massive part of your franchise moving forward. And to me, that description fits Gabe Perreault more so than anybody else. But obviously, we keep our fingers crossed now that, JT Miller is okay and that he can get back out there sooner rather than later, and hopefully that he doesn't miss any time. But we're all going to be waiting with bated breath until we get a proper update on what's going on with JT Miller. But in just a second, we're going to keep everything rolling. There's something I've been wanting to do for a while here, and that's to discuss the Centennial themes for the New York Rangers. They've got, it looks like 8 of them for this upcoming season, and very, very interesting. It sounds like the Rangers are going all out to make this a special season, present it as such, and we're going to discuss all those Centennial nights and the themes and what they're going to entail. We will do that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a quick minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is the best because it gives you endless opportunities and endless options every single day. Whether you're building a same-game parlay, or you like player props, or you want to bet for or against your favorite team, it's got something for you no matter what you're looking for. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Big shout out to the everydayers. As always, we've got Rangers, we've got Islanders. Puck drops at 7 o'clock a little bit later here tonight on Monday. So whatever happens in that game, we're going to be breaking it down. And like I said, I do think it's a very intriguing matchup with a lot of the younger guys on the Rangers, the prospects trying to make this team, or at the very least, turn some heads, going up against, the maybe not the full Islanders regular season team, but it sounds like they're going to have more regular players in that lineup than the Rangers will. So I think it's a great opportunity for some of the young New York Ranger players. But with all that said, let's go ahead, shift our attention to the Centennial themes for the New York Rangers. And what I'm going to do right now, assuming I can figure out how to do this, is share my screen with you guys for anybody watching on YouTube. And there you go. So for anybody on YouTube, you can now see the 8 Centennial theme nights that the Rangers will be hosting this upcoming season. If you're on audio, no worries. Going to talk you through it like always. So on October 20th against the Wild, you've got Birth of the Franchise. And on November 8th against the Islanders, you got Milestones and Moments. We're going to go through the entire list here together, and then there's a more detailed explanation about what all these theme nights theme nights entail. So we'll discuss that as well. Then on November 16th, you've got the original 6 era against the Detroit Red Wings, and that's very fitting given that obviously the Rangers and Wings, both original 6 teams. I like that aspect of it too. Of the 8, Centennial theme nights this upcoming season, 4 of them, it looks like, will be up against original 6 teams. So that's pretty cool in and of itself. You've got the New Garden. That will be December 13th against the Canadiens. You've got fan favorites. That'll be January 8th against the Sabres. Legendary Blue Shirts, January 26th against the Bruins. And then you've got goaltenders, February 5th against the Canes. And then finally, the modern era, which will be March 5th against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But for a more detailed breakdown, we're going to keep everything moving along here. This is right from the Rangers website as far as what all these nights entail. So again, the first of the 8 theme nights will occur on October 20th, and it's birth of the franchise. It will cover 1926 to 1942. And this is the description as laid out by the New York Rangers. And then I'll have some thoughts on it as well. Honoring the team's early success and established reputation for being the classiest team in hockey during a celebrated time in New York history. And yeah, that'll be cool. I mean, obviously, 1940, you've got that awesome championship run there. And obviously, things are just getting started, and the Rangers are basically just becoming who they are. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. It's very easy to kind of overlook that era because it was so long ago. And I mean, any video you get of that era, it's all in black and white, and it's all grainy and whatnot. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. I think that's obviously a great place to start because, it's the first of the 8 theme nights, and you get to discuss the very humble beginnings of the New York Rangers. Then on November 8th, we've got milestones and moments. And again, this is the description as laid out by the New York Rangers. From playoff overtime goals to record-setting games, recognizing unforgettable moments that have taken place throughout Rangers history. That's going to be a fun one, too. I mean, the moments are why we watch sports. They're why we become Ranger fans. And we've seen countless unforgettable moments from this franchise over the years. And, obviously 94 comes to mind, and you think of, playoff overtime goals and Stefan Matteau. The Rangers have had so many moments since then. The only downside is it never seems to lead to a Stanley Cup, but there have been so many moments that we've been fortunate enough to be around for and be Ranger fans for, and I'm certainly looking forward to that night. Then you've got November 16th, from 1942 to 1967, the original 6 era. And again, this is the description commemorating the players that built the Rangers status, as a true New York team and the homegrown legends who starred for the team during those years. I like the emphasis on homegrown legends. And honestly, they really should have done this when the Rangers were going to play the Ducks, because you could have Chris Kreider out there. He is a homegrown, some would say legend. I mean, that word does get thrown around quite a bit. I do think eventually Kreider's name and jersey can and will and should be in the Madison Square Garden rafters. I mean, we're not there yet. Kreider's obviously still playing, but he'll be there, or he'll be included in that. You would have to think in the video package or however they celebrate it. And I mean, yeah, countless homegrown stars over the years. Definitely looking forward to the Rangers obviously paying tribute to all of them. Then on December 13th, you've got the New Garden. That's the theme from 1967 to 1991, recognizing the rebirth that took place during this period, including a new home arena and bringing Rangers hockey to more fans than ever through television. And yeah, that sounds like a fun night as well. We'll keep everything moving along here. The next one will be occurring on January 8th, and it is fan favorites. That will be the theme for that night. And this is the description, again, right from the Rangers website, highlighting players who have earned the love and admiration of the Garden faithful through their hard work and all-out effort. Yeah, this to me kind of sounds like almost like a blue-collar player kind of night, and guys that just kind of won over the Ranger fan base with their work ethic and scrappiness and maybe some clutch play as well. Definitely looking forward to that one. January 26th, it's going to be legendary blue shirts from 1991 to 2004. And this is the description again, honoring some of the best to ever play the game, some of the best individual seasons and team accomplishments in franchise history. Yeah, I mean, that one from that era is kind of interesting. I mean, obviously, you got the 1994 Stanley Cup team in there, but taking it all the way to 2004 seems a little odd to me, just because, after 1997, that's a lot of bad years in a row there. So, they cut it off right before the Rangers get good again. But there's 7 years of bad hockey for the Rangers at the very end of that time period. So that's a little bit odd. But obviously, look, I mean, from 91 to 94, you're trying to build a winner. You get Mark Messier in town, and they have that situation where the Rangers missed the playoffs in 92-93 before they win the Stanley Cup in 93-94. Got to figure that'll be a big part of this night as well, kind of telling that story. Then we get to the 7th of the 8th theme nights. We've got February 5th. We've got goaltenders. That is the theme. And I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll still read the description here. Celebrating some of the best goaltending talents throughout 100 years of Rangers hockey. That's going to be an emotional night because obviously we just lost Eddie Jockerman not too long ago, about, I don't know, at this point, maybe like 2 weeks ago or, whatever it was. But obviously a Ranger fan favorite, beloved by everybody, phenomenal goalie. He basically set the standard for what it means to be, a fantastic New York Ranger goalie. And I've been very fortunate, and some of you as well, to see guys like Mike Richter and Henrik Lundqvist and now Igor Shesterkin. I'll be curious to see if they get everybody in the building. I mean, Igor's going to be there. We know that. But, I mean, Lundqvist, he's always around. I would hope he would be there. Get Mike Richter in there as well. That's going to be a fun one as well, I think, for sure. And then finally, last but not least, on March 5th, you've got the modern era, which will cover everything that's happened from 2004 to the present. And then the description for this one, celebrating a new era of Rangers hockey highlighted by 15 postseason appearances and the creation of new team traditions. And you got to believe that 2014 team is going to be all over this because obviously they at least made it to the Stanley Cup final. And then in recent seasons, obviously the run that they had 2 years ago, the run that they had 4 years ago, making it to the conference final each time. Yager's going to be in there for sure. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's hard to just name individual players at the risk of, forgetting somebody. But it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. For sure. I think that's going to be a good night as well. And, hopefully this is a big time season for the New York Rangers. I mean, I don't know how much the players are going to think about this, but in terms of just what's going on this year, it's your 100th season. It should feel special. It should feel important. And I would hope, that the players do talk about this at least a little bit, that we have to uphold the standard of New York Ranger hockey and go out there and battle every single night and make this franchise proud and make these fans proud. I mean, can you imagine if last season the Rangers were celebrating their 100th season? What a disaster that would have been. And I've been saying, and I'll continue to say, that I do think this upcoming season will certainly be better than the one before it. I think you'll see the Rangers at least get back into the playoffs. But if there's another season this year like we had last year, I mean, that's going to put a damper on the whole thing. And it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, we'll still enjoy it. We'll still enjoy all these different Centennial theme nights. But if the team is just flat out bad, it will put a damper on some of these festivities, I think, for sure, especially the ones that are happening later in the season when, maybe at that point the Rangers are farther out of the playoffs and they're not going to make it. And it's kind of like, oh, God, that would be really unfortunate. But my hope is that obviously that the Rangers have some pride this season, have some fight this season, and celebrate a Centennial season like any franchise should. So definitely looking forward to, obviously, all those different theme nights. It's going to be a lot of fun. For the time being, though, we got one more thing to do today. And at long last, we are going to read some of your stories from meeting Sam Rosen over the years. We've been calling for some stories for, a couple of weeks now, and definitely got to read some of those, some interesting, some fun, some cool stories from all you guys meeting Sam Rosen over the years. We will do that in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers by sharing a couple of different Sam Rosen stories that some of you have shared with me over the years. This one comes to us from Rich. Rich says, Dear John, I want to share my humble Sam Rosen story. I was the treasurer of the New York Ranger fan club in the mid-1990s. There was a fan club gathering, and I was at a table with Sam. I was surprised how tall he is. I think we were both 6'4". That is quite a bit taller than I picture Sam Rosen as being. I mean, it's kind of hard on TV to really get a feel for that, I guess. But when you're in person, obviously you can tell a whole lot better. But apparently Sam stands a cool 6'4". Rich continues here. What didn't surprise me was his demeanor. It was clear he was such a class act. It's not a big story I have to share, just reflects what a winner Sam is. I saw Gretzky's last goal in person in the Garden back when seats were affordable for middle-class people. Yeah, honestly, it's interesting you mentioned that at the end. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised even back then they weren't charging an arm and a leg for that game, because by that point, it was very well known that Gretzky was going to hang up his skates at the end of the season, and we knew the Rangers weren't making the playoffs. I mean, because why would they in that era? But yeah, bottom line, they that was the last game, and that's very cool, Rich, that you obviously got to see that, and that's a really cool Sam story as well. We've got this story that was shared to me on Twitter from Deviate Comics. My son works at the Flyers practice facility. A few years ago, the Rangers were practicing there prior to a game in Philly, and Sam was there watching and preparing notes. My son recognized him, and Sam kind of gave him a look like, I can't talk right now, so my son didn't approach him. After Sam was done, he saw my son as he was walking out, and he turned around and came up to him. My son told him he was a Rangers fan, and Sam made a joke about being behind enemy lines and shook his hand. That's very cool as well. Very cool that Sam would kind of, see your son after you'd seen him a little bit earlier and make the time to go over and have a quick chat with him. That's awesome. Just tells us everything we need to know about Sam Rosen. We've got this story here from Michael. Got to meet Sam last casino night, and he couldn't have been nicer. I asked him over his 40 years, who was the Rangers' name he most loved yelling when they scored a goal? I know it's recent, but I felt like he really emphasized Mika Zibanejad when he scored. But he think for a few, and his answer was Mark Messier. That's a good one, too. Those are both great choices, by the way. Just wanted to share that, but Sam really will be missed in the broadcast booth. Hopefully he checks in regularly in some capacity. I hope so, too. I've been saying that ever since, honestly, I think I said that for the first time. Maybe the episode that we recorded after Sam had announced that he was going to be stepping down at the end of, now this previous season. I do hope he'll be in there every once in a while. He can go in studio. He can even just call in via Zoom or whatever he wants to do. I feel like he might keep his distance, at least initially, just because, he had his time in the sun and he loved it and he was awesome at it. And he was the Ranger play-by-play announcer on TV for 40 years. So knowing Sam, or as well as we can know Sam without actually meeting him in person, I feel like he maybe would kind of take a step back and just kind of enjoy Ranger hockey as a fan and give the spotlight to Kenny Albert and Dave Maloney and everybody else that works at MSG Studios on camera. And he might feel like he doesn't want to step on any toes. He doesn't want to, butt back in there and overshadow everybody, even though we all know that he would be welcomed back with open arms by all of us and probably everybody at MSG as well. I could see him maybe taking a little bit of a step back, but I do hope we see him at least every once in a while popping up on MSG to share his thoughts about the Rangers. That would be really nice for sure. We got this story from Andrew. I actually met Sam this year at the annual casino night. I've wanted to go to casino night for years, but was always hesitant to pull the trigger given the price tag. But knowing this would be Sam's last season, I was more tempted than ever. After all, it could end up being my only opportunity to ever meet the man. That's a good point. Kudos to my wife for convincing me to take the leap last year. I took my dad, who raised me into the Rangers fan that I am, as his Christmas present, and it turned out to be an unforgettable experience. I won't go into too much detail about casino night itself. It was cool, don't get me wrong. I played poker with Kreider and hung with Rempe. Rempe's the best. But the highlight of the night was meeting Sam. After waiting in line for about 10 minutes, my dad and I finally had our moment. All the stories you've heard about Sam are true. He was so genuine, didn't rush us, listened to what we had to say. He was so appreciative of our support. He actually thanked us for coming. But the cherry on top was this. When I told him my 10-year-old son was a huge fan as well, he asked me what his name was and whether he played hockey. After I told him my son Preston did indeed play hockey, he told me to start recording a video. The result is attached, which blew my mind. Take a watch and tell me it isn't the coolest thing ever. My son was floored. I've also attached a picture of me, Sam, and my dad. It was such an honor to meet him and so heartening that he's just as much of a gem as people described. And so what we're going to do now, since we have the technology to do that, provided I can figure it out, is from Andrew, we're going to share that picture right there on casino night. That's awesome. Sam, obviously a man of the people and going around meeting everybody. Very, very cool. And that does sound like a really fun event. That's something that I have to look into, I think, a little bit more for this upcoming season or, other seasons as well. So that's the picture. And we've also got the video here. It's only 9 seconds, but it's Sam being Sam. This is awesome. Enjoy.
Preston and Sam Rosen, I want you to score a big goal so I can say it's a power play goal.
That rules. That is absolutely awesome. And again, got to thank you for sending that in. That's really, really cool, Andrew. So thank you for doing that. And then we've got a story, one more here from Michael. This is actually back from 2024, but I thought this was just a fantastic idea. And so I wanted to share this with you. This comes to us from Michael. And Michael says, again, from 2024 here, hey, John, hope all is well. Listen to your episode about Sam hanging it up a few days ago, which I'm devastated about, by the way. The honorary banner can be done, the Sabres' long-term announcer, Rick Jenneret, passed away and they retired his jersey. It's up there with the rest of them and just has a microphone symbol instead of a number. It's actually pretty tasteful. He was an institution out this way. They loved him like we love Sam. I'm sure MSG will do right by him. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for that idea. I think that's a fantastic idea. I love it. You don't always necessarily have to be a player to get that kind of recognition. And I think certainly at some point the Rangers are going to do something really, really big for Sam. It could be as soon as this upcoming season. It is the Centennial, and they've got all these different theme nights. So why not? I mean, it's a good time as now as any other to do it. The Centennial, the last Centennial theme night is March 5th. So there's a decent chunk of the season still remaining after that. And I think if you want to mix in, a Sam Rosen ceremony, maybe even, again, putting his jersey, quote unquote, into the rafters, I'm all for it. I think it's a fantastic idea. I figured we can call it there. Thank you guys so much for sharing those stories, though. You still have time, if you've not done so yet, and you would like to share a story about Stephane Matteau scoring Game 7 double overtime against the Devils, where you were, who you were with, what you were doing when Matteau scored that game winner in Game 7. Definitely send those my way, and we'll share those on a future episode of Locked On New York Rangers. But I figured we can call it there for today. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, @jchik17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.